Okay, I need to talk about something that is quietly messing with a lot of ambitious women online, myself included maybe, because everyone online is screaming to be authentic in an age of AI. And this has been happening for, let's say, about 6, 7 years. Everyone is saying, you have to be authentic, you have to be authentic. But the moment you share, you start worrying. Did I overshare? Is this too messy? Will this actually make people not buy from me? Am I maybe being too relatable or not? Or am I maybe training my audience to see me as their friend? And is this why they maybe don't even like me enough to buy from me? And maybe it's even worse. Maybe you've just been sharing thinking, hey, I just need to be relatable. I just need to be authentic. But you've seen a drop in your sales. Hello, and welcome to Fail to Win, the show where we love to make mistakes and learn from them so you can turn your passion into profits and live life on your own terms. I'm Amy van der Putten from FastForwardAmy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode with simple strategies every Tuesday. Today, I want to teach you the bridge between authenticity, relatability, and authority, and how you get to be real online without it actually costing you sales or without it having to make you smaller. So basically, we're going to be talking about how you get to be relatable without losing your authority, because you do need your authority if you want people to buy from you. So I'm going to give you a really simple framework that you can use. And this is a problem I've come across many times, not necessarily for myself, because I've intuitively most of the time found a way to do this. And I also went through a period where I just shared less, but I've seen this happen with a lot of clients. For example, I have a lot of virtual assistants as clients. And what I see is they will often share these huge fuck ups and situations in their life, which makes them actually seem much less trustworthy on the outside towards clients. And this is one of those things you don't want to do, because as a virtual assistant, it's your job to be incredibly trustworthy for your clients. But that doesn't mean that you're not going through stuff in your life. So what I see happening currently is like two extremes, right? One, we have people who are so incredibly polished and perfect, and they're only showing up with the pretty photos and the nice outfits and the perfect storytelling, and like they have all of their shit together, and it's so nauseatingly perfect that you just feel your ick radar going off and you don't trust them. On the other hand, there's also people that are so relatable that you maybe like following their reality show of a life, but you don't really trust them enough to buy from them. But you get to be real and be a leader. But if your authenticity is sounding like your audience is your therapist, then you're kind of flipping the roles and you're gonna see that it's not really gonna benefit your sales. So what is the core idea that we want to tap into? Authenticity is truth, relatability is accessibility, but authority is leadership and results. The goal that we want to aim for is not to be relatable. The goal is to be trusted. So a lot of people are afraid to post online because they're like, oh, I got to show my entire life if I want to, get clients. And that's not the case. I shared this in, I think it was 2 episodes ago, where I shared about how you can show up as a personal life, as a personal brand, share stuff from your life. But that doesn't mean that you have to like show your kids' faces or, put your sex life online. Our goal is as a business that we want to create trust. This goes for any type of business. So for a personal brand, female entrepreneur in this case, the trust comes from, whoa, she gets me and she can lead me to the next step that I'm looking for. So we want to aim for both being human, but also having high standards. Because imagine if I would show up all the time, like not taking care of myself, people wouldn't actually buy business coaching from me because they want to buy business coaching. And there's a ton of business coaches, but it's also the fact that how I live my life, how I'm living my lifestyle, how I'm prioritizing my health, for example, from which they kind of like deduce like, oh, this is someone I'd like to learn from because she can lead me and she has standards she stands for that I kind of agree with or aspire to have as well. So you get to show up as a real person because you are a real person and there's no use in pretending to be someone you're not. But you also have to show like your standards, your boundaries, and your brain. And that's what makes you feel really safe and trustworthy to people. So there are 3 levels of sharing, or let's say the 3 levels of being authentic online. The first one is bleeding, and this will kill your authority really quickly. I did this a couple of times, I think, in the past when I wasn't feeling amazingly and when showing up online really felt like my outlet. And this is when you're processing in public. You're really emotional, you're unclear, you're venting, you're spiraling. There's no lesson to be found in anything you're sharing. There's no boundary, there's no decision. And the vibe, if you don't pay attention, it can become, please tell me I'm okay, please agree with me, please, suffer with me. And that's not actually content. That's a cry for regulation. That's a cry for approval. And I say that with love because, again, I think I kind of crossed that boundary. Not lately, because if anything, in the past year, I shared a lot less, actually, of my personal stuff because I felt like, it had to do with other people as well. I didn't really know how to show up online and share my own story. So I did this, I think, years and years ago when I felt a bit disconnected from friends and family. And I started actually really using my social media as an outlet. And I think sometimes the way you can recognize the bleeding sharing is when you're sharing stuff before you have actually formed your own opinion on it. And before you have, pulled out your own lesson, and especially before you've before you've talked to your own inner circle about this. And I think for me, that happened when I just didn't really feel good in my inner circle. And I felt like the people online were my inner circle. And if you want to do this, just pay attention to, like, why are you sharing it? Are you sharing this because this is your friend group online? Then just know that you're not sharing it for, potential clients. So this is the first level of sharing. It's called bleeding. And then the second level is bandaged. By the way, I don't actually use these terms. I just looked them up. I heard someone talk about this one time. And I think it's a really good way to look at it. Like, bleeding is the wound is actually still bleeding in this moment. You're so deep in, you can't really zoom out. You're sharing in the moment. It can be quite risky because you're going through it. At the time of recording, I am, it's the end of January, which means the Beckham drama is going on online. I try to not look at gossip and stuff, but my feed has been exploding with the Beckham drama. And it would be the parents, Beckhams, sharing in the exact moment they got their son's stories. I don't know if you followed the drama. I did accidentally. But if they would show up in the moment itself of a public and personal disaster happening, you can imagine that would probably not be the best time for them to share because they're probably not zooming out. They're probably not objective about this, obviously, and they are in the emotions. You don't want to share when you're still bleeding. And if you do want to share, just make sure that you're taking responsibility for what you're actually asking for. So the second type is bandaged. And this is one I quite like myself because, if I'm being really honest, I used to really not agree with people saying you can only share after the fact, because I feel like a lot of people in the US only ever share way after the fact. And I feel like then you're just missing a lot of authenticity online. So bandaged is kind of the sweet spot. Bandaged means, the wound is still there. It's bandaged. And you get to share the truth. You get to share what's happened. But it's kind of framed. You've processed it a little bit. You've taken a little bit of leadership. So you're not hiding the wound. You're still showing up with integrity, authenticity of what's going on. But you're not actually dripping blood on people. So you get to share what happened, what it meant, what you decided, what you learned, what standard you hold now. And this is really authenticity that gets to build authority. So I'll give you a personal example. I'm a business coach, and that means that I often struggle with, I call this the fitness trainer phenomenon. As a fitness trainer, people kind of expect you always to be eating healthily and looking ripped. And as a business coach, I often struggle when I'm going through levels of growth in my business, it feels like I can't really show the ugly side. If someone quits, I'm like, oh, are people going to think I'm a bad boss, aka I'm a bad business coach? Or when I get flooded by work, which lately I've had a couple of months of incredible expansion in the business. And so I had way too much work on my plate. And it felt like if I would share the immediate overwhelm, that wouldn't have been good because I wasn't able to share my lesson yet. But then when I saw how I was restructuring my work, how I was going about everything, I was like, well, this is a really great lesson. And I can share from authenticity, hey, this has been going on behind the scenes. And this is how I approached it. These are the things I applied to it. And this has really helped me. The thing is, though, that you don't want to overdo this when it's too far out. So I love when shit happens right now, because I'm like, ooh, these are great things that I can share in a bandaged way. And it feels really authentic for me. Because sometimes when I'm talking to, let's say, beginners in business, I feel very not related to them anymore, because I'm like, well, that's 10 years ago. So I kind of want to be able to share stories that still feel like they're currently bandaged, if you get what I mean. So let's say you're a virtual assistant and you stand for, helping people to be proactive in their business, to not have an inbox that has 150 emails, to really help them with life and admin. What would be not great is if you're sharing sobbing on the floor, on the bathroom floor of the hospital and being like, I'm sorry, clients, I didn't get to your emails. What would be great if you obviously professionally deal with that in the moment that's happening, if possible. I have a personal ache of people posting on their stories to let their clients know they'll get around to messaging them. I'm like, that's not a professional channel to actually communicate with people. I do feel like if you have clients and you have commitments to them, like I have my clients in the business club or in Voxer, I'll let them know through those channels if there's going to be a late reply or something. But so what would be great for that VA is to then afterwards be like, hey, so last week I was in a hospital. This is what happened. This is how I made sure my inbox and my admin and my clients didn't explode, because this is how I've organized my business to work in a really efficient way, and how I've, for example, implemented AI. Then you're still sore from the wound. The wound is still bandaged, but you get to share a lesson. And for example, as a VA who stands for family first, you get to share, this is how I prioritized my family and didn't let down my clients by having an SOP for, when shit hits the fan ready. This is where you get to share from authenticity, and that can actually build authority. Now, the third way of sharing is the scar. And this is pure authority. This is when you only share the conclusion. It's really strong. It's really clean. It's like, hey, here's my framework for dealing with whatever. And this builds credibility, and it can work. But honestly, I often feel like if you only do that, it can feel incredibly distant. And this is why I'm currently feeling really quite excited actually about showing up online with some stuff that's happening in real time. I've currently shared some stuff on my Instagram, for example, about how I'm dealing with the workload as my business has been expanding, how I'm dealing with that, what I'm doing with my investments, because I've hit this new level of like, what do I do with my finances, but also like a personal stuff that I'm going through. For example, do I want to freeze my eggs or not? And these aren't things that I've shared immediately as I was freaking out about them or dealing with them, but in the process of taking steps. So I've shared like the previous step, but not like 10 steps ago, because I do feel like in an age of AI, in an age of repurposing, which I'm a huge fan of, people are looking for some scars and bandages. Of course, people love looking at the drama, but again, let's remember why we have the personal brand. Like for me, for example, if it were up to me personally and I wouldn't use social media for my business, I wouldn't really be on social media. I love social media. I love using it. I love storytelling. I love connecting with people and making an impact, but it is still a business tool for me. So that's what I like to remind myself of. I'm someone who's really had to learn to ask for help from their friends and family. I've really had to learn to be able to receive. I'm still learning that. So for me, for example, when I'm going through shit in the past, it has at times felt easier to share about it online because it didn't feel comfortable to ask my friends and family for it. And after the fact, I remember I was going through a breakup when I did share some stuff. And I realized like, oh, this was actually me sharing because I just didn't feel supported enough by my friends and family. So that's definitely also something to pay attention to. Like, do you just want some pity and some empathy? Then maybe go and ask your friends and family. And again, if you want to do that online on your social media, that's fine. Just bear in mind that it might not get you the clients you're looking for. Okay. So this is the authority safe authenticity formula. It's really simple. Whenever you share something personal, make sure you are including one or two of the following. Include a decision. So this could be I chose or I stopped tolerating. So an example could be for me that I'm like, despite me having a lot of work, I made a decision to stop every day on time to go for a 30-minute walk, no matter if there was work waiting for me or not, right? Or the second thing you could share is the standard. What's acceptable now? So for example, with my team, again, the same thing, I noticed that work that wasn't finished came to me, which was why my reviews were taking a lot of time. So we created a new SOP for content, like an updated version of how we used to do it. And now I don't accept things that have not passed that SOP, which is really like it's drastically changed my review time, because my standard is that I am not correcting other people's work. I'm only the final approval check. So I'm not actually doing reviews anymore, because reviews kind of like means like, oh, feedback and change this and that. I'm calling it approvals now, and an approval means it's a yes or it's a no. That's how I'm now doing this. A third thing you can do when you're sharing something personal, you can share a lesson. So what can other people apply from this? A lesson in my stuff could be, and I didn't think this through, by the way, I'm just sharing this as we're going through it. The lesson could be, for example, that as you are growing your business, you got to pay attention. That stuff doesn't just get added to your plate, but that whenever something gets added to your plate, something gets taken away as well. For example, team members get added, you get added communication with team members, all of those things. You're paying for them, you're carrying that. Make sure that they are actually taking stuff away from your plate as well, because otherwise your plate is going to get really, really full and your cortisol is going to get fucked. Fourth thing you can include is the proof, like why you are qualified to say this, and remind people of that. So I could easily, in this whole storyline, be like, well, I've been working with a team for 6 years and I've seen this pattern. Whenever you go through a growth phase, the work piles up first. And whenever you hit this like breaking point, that's actually when you get to make everything more efficient and effective, and you can go to the next phase in your business. And then there's also a boundary that you can include, what you won't share or won't do. So for example, I had just made stories and I did put up a boundary. I'm like, I'm going to share this because I want to inspire people with this, but this doesn't mean I want unsolicited advice about this. I'm just sharing this from my point of view, but I don't need this to become a whole thing. So remember when I said, so it's the authority safe authenticity formula. Whenever you're sharing something personal, include one or two of these: a decision, a standard, a lesson, the proof, or the boundary. Like one or two of these will make it a lot better, and it will make your content from poor me, look at what I'm going through, to I was going through that until I realized. And that's going to give you so much more power. So this is what I have written here as an example, like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed and I'm struggling and I can't get my workouts in, to, for example, saying, here's what I do when I'm overwhelmed in between events. I make sure I don't rely on motivation, but I make sure to plan my week, my steps and my workouts in advance, because my new standard is I do not operate in a stressed nervous system and my body deserves workouts and walks. Right? That's like the same truth, but a completely different energy. One is saying, please come save me. The other is saying, I'm a leader, and that doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I am leading. So let's make this really, really practical. You want to be relatable without lowering your authority, right? Let's do a couple of swaps in your language. So instead of saying, I'm a mess too, I'm so imperfect, you can say, I'm human too, and here's how I handle it when this happens. Or instead of saying, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing, you can say, here's what I'm testing, and this is why I'm testing that. Instead of saying, I'm really struggling with consistency, you can say, I don't build results on motivation, so I'm building systems based on my standards, for example. For me, that's one of the things I'm actually doing. So because I saw the workload was increasing, I was like, oh, I really don't want to finish every Friday with more work, because our team doubled, which means the work, like so many more people are actually doing their jobs, which means I've gotten way more reviews. And that's when I was like, well, I'm not going to do more work than I was doing, so let's build systems to support both them and me in this. You see how that's like not taking away from my authority? If anything, this is going to make another CEO who listens to my podcast be like, what type of systems did you build? How did you use AI for like an expanded team? Because, oh my God, I feel like I'm always carrying my work into the weekend. And I'm saying my boundaries, I don't work weekends, right? Because so I think you kind of have it. So let's do a little quick self-check before you post. So before you post something that's quote unquote authentic, if a new person finds this content, will they think, same, she's just like me, haha, let's be besties? Or like, look, this is like me, my best friend? Or will she say, damn, she really gets it and she's a step ahead? Because you want B, not because you're better, but because you are positioning yourself as a guide So this is literally your job if you're selling transformation, to kind of always be one step ahead. You don't have to be many, many steps ahead. But again, if you're in doubt, it doesn't mean you have to know all of the perfect stuff. Just remember what I said, like a decision, a boundary, a standard, just like sharing it as life lessons or as ways you're dealing with stuff is really powerful. So here's your homework for today or for this week, to share something a little bit more vulnerable than you've been daring to do, and authentic, but still, something that keeps your authority high. Share something real today, but do it in a bandaged way. So pick one truth you've been living lately and add a decision, a standard, a boundary, or a lesson. Just one, because authenticity isn't just like vulnerability dumping. Authenticity is your truth with leadership caked into it, right? Okay, so if you're currently struggling with content, I have shared a ton about this, and I'm going to be sharing much more in the upcoming weeks, because I feel like visibility, daring to be seen, speaking up, sharing in a vulnerable way without oversharing, it's such a fine dynamic. And I live and breathe this every day. I'm currently teaching my team a lot about content. I've really gone back to enjoying social media, because I look at it as a challenge, right? As when I grew, I was so afraid to show up online. I was afraid to post pictures, to make videos. I hated my own voice. And to this day, sometimes, like secret between you and me, I don't even listen to my own podcast because I just don't love it. But I have come to this point where I just show up. Rain or shine, I show up. And I have systems that support me in that. And one of those systems is that I have so much content. Like, I kid you not, I have such great systems. A podcast currently gets turned into 17 pieces of content, and I don't spend more than an hour on that. My team does everything else. AI tools does everything else, but it's still my own tone of voice, my input, my copy. It's just the implementation I don't do. And one of the things that has really helped me throughout the years is just collecting B-roll the entire time. But a while ago, I was actually helping a friend with their business and their marketing. And I was like, yeah, just like start posting every day. It's like train yourself to create, show up, marketing, sales. And I looked at their phone and I noticed they had pictures of like a screwdriver and interior and all of that, but they had no pictures or videos of themselves. And I was like, what? Like, you should have been collecting this in the entire past year as you were getting started building your business. And so I showed that person the GPT my team and I created for shoots. It's our B-roll GPT. It's basically a GPT that will tailor, customize to you which 10 clips you can easily film that you can then use for your stories, for content, for a bunch of stuff. Is this the best content professionally made in the world? No. All you need is your own smartphone, an iPhone or whatever. You don't even need a tripod or whatever, and you need 15 minutes of your time. So if you want access to that GPT, just message me B-roll, all one word, so BROLL, or go to the link in the description of this episode. I'm going to send you the link. It's going to ask you a couple of questions, and then as you answer those questions, like who you are, what you're doing, what your industry is, it's going to roll out a checklist of 10 things you need to film so that you just have B-roll forever from now on. So when you share something, it's not about, do I have a photo? Do I have a video? No, it's just going to be about your authentic authority voice. It's not going to be about, do you have any footage of yourself or not? Okay. Go and grab it. Go and shoot that B-roll. Life is too short to not show up for the life you are dreaming of. And it's what you do today that creates your tomorrow. So don't postpone until tomorrow what you get to create today. Okay. Good luck and see you next week, Tuesday, for another episode. Bye.
They say running a business is getting harder and harder because you can be amazing at what you do, but if you don't know how to actually run the business side of things, you won't actually make it past year 5. Now, I've been in business for the past 10 years, and trust me, I have made a lot of mistakes. But luckily, I've learned a lot of things as well. And throughout the years, I've discovered that there are 9 skills every entrepreneur needs in order to actually grow their business in a sustainable way. And I can teach you how to do this and grow your business to 5K, 10K a month, all without a team or really fancy systems. When you apply these principles, you won't be feeling like you're in survival mode anymore at the beginning of each month, or like you're afraid to open up your mailbox, or that secret voice in your brain that goes, should I go back to working for a boss? It is going to disappear, because once you have these 9 principles, everything is going to get easier. And that is why, to celebrate my 10 years of entrepreneurship and my 33rd birthday, I am bringing back my best-selling program, the Business Freedom Elevator, which has been followed by over 1,900 entrepreneurs. And I want to celebrate my birthday with you. So if you're interested to learn the 9 essential entrepreneurial skills every business owner needs in order to go from having a dream to actually having a full-time paycheck without losing your freedom, make sure you go and grab lifetime access to my program. And as a bonus, you're going to get 3 days of live coaching where we're going to fast track your success for this year. Go to the link in the description and I'd love to see you there. And if you have any questions, just send me a message on Instagram. I don't bite.